Hey, everybody, it's Christine Parakis, your career invincibility host. And I just had the most amazing conversation with this guy, my next guest, that I had to invite him back because I couldn't stop with just one show. So you and I get to listen to and hear the most amazing wisdom coming from this extraordinary entrepreneur, successful business person, good news only guy, and thankfully my personal friend, Mike NICKLAS.
Thank
Hey,
you,
Mike.
Christine. Good to be back. I enjoyed the conversation last week, and thank you for having me back. It's always great. I feel like I'm taking a hike with you whenever I'm talking to you, which we do often.
Absolutely. And you know what? I think that we are just scratching the surface, right? We could make a series out of this because there's so much to share in terms of your experiences in business and just overcoming various, stories, traumas, events, and, what we're in the middle of as a global pandemic right now and a ton of fear. And we just started touching on that in our last show. And I think that we should go a little deeper to help support our listeners who are not able to get themselves out of that on their own.
Well, I agree with you. I mean, I think, if you look around and you see the beauty in all that surrounds you and you focus on that first, then you have a better chance of getting through the fear of what's going on, with the pandemic itself. And if you follow the rules of the social distancing, and you're staying home and getting close to your family and playing board games and having Zoom calls. The other day, I had a Zoom dinner with my kids. It was unbelievable. We laughed. I put on a hazmat suit just as a joke. They were taking all sorts of pictures on Zoom. And you just got to really embrace those things. It's like you said in the last show, it's like just a consistent bear hug in your intention with everybody you're with, and be present with the people you're with, and don't be thinking beyond now, because people always say we said in the last conversation, they let yesterday affect today. Well, the future is right now, and try to put yourself in the present, embrace and enjoy it, and look at the person in front of you in the eye and move forward. It's very, very important.
Yeah, and I think that what we have is an opportunity right now is to slow everything down. And one of the most amazing books I've read in a while was a book by a guy who introduced meditation to the Western world 50 years ago, called Take Your Time. And, yeah, right. And he was talking about the multitasking world back in the 90s. And imagine if he were alive today. I mean, before pandemic, right? And now, here we are. Even though I've never been busier, I am feeling like there's more time. And I don't feel that urgency. Are you finding that, even though I know how busy you are in your business and your life?
Sure. I mean, I think the greatest test we all face is time. Dealing with large amounts of it, not knowing if we are making any progress towards our finish line. But you know what? If you actually write your finish line down, put it on your whiteboard, stare at it, hear it to yourself, talk to yourself. Self-talk is such a crucial part of our life. I don't think we do enough. I think it's very healthy to give yourself healthy talk back at yourself. I don't care if it's looking in the mirror, talking to the sky, closing your eyes. And I'm sure you told me about the meditating that you're doing, right? And it helps you tremendously, right? Just to clear your brain and know that time in the present moment is always on your side. It's not against you, it's with you. And if you embrace the fact that time is your best friend, then you'll start enjoying time instead of wasting it.
Well, and even more importantly, it's precious, right? I mean, you can have all the money in the world, but you cannot buy more time. So we have to make the most of it. And, I found that throughout this quarantine, I'm still getting up between 5 and 5:30 every single day. I have not altered my morning practices and the way that I start my day, even though I'm not going out as much, or my schedule is a little bit looser in terms of time commitments. But yeah, I mean, it's not an excuse to sleep in. It's not an excuse to squander the precious resource of the remaining years, months, weeks, hours, minutes, seconds that we have left.
Couldn't agree more. I mean, if you think about it, we all have passions. We all know what they are for our personal self. We don't need to think about Christine's passions. I want to think about Mike's passions. I mean, think if you're thinking about other people, what they're doing, stop it. Think for yourself. You know what your passions are. And today is the best day for all of us to recharge, re-engage, re-energize, and most of all, recommit to the passion. Working out, get with it. The Metal Organization, how we met, we have a workout 6 days a week, which, by the way, Mike Jr. Teaches them, and I'm going to send you the Zoom so you can start joining them.
Yeah, I'm left out.
Oh, he's gonna love it when you show up. He's gonna be like,
absolutely.
"Oh my God, Christine, let's dance." But honestly, recommit yourself to your passion, and you're going to be excited. This is a time for us to reboot, recharge, and re-energize. And it's your chance to like get with, people. I always like to use the line. I always hear it. People say, you only live once. I don't agree with that. I think you only die once. You live every day. So do yourself a favor, get with your passion, embrace it, and live every day.
Yes. And you have so many passions, right? I mean, that's always been my issue, right? There's so many things I want to do and that I'm interested in, that I want to develop mastery over. And, how do you juggle all that? Because you have a lot of passion.
No, I absolutely do. I love to work out. One thing I'm missing, I'm big into weightlifting. I love weightlifting. In the traditional, I would say, I'm an ex-football player, so I would always lift weights. And my goal was to stay a weightlifter for my whole life, and I have. But this pandemic, I have to say, because you got to miss a few things. You got to miss a few things, right? Nice restaurant, places you go to normally, seeing friends. But I actually missed the weight room. I would spend an hour and a half. I got my buddies in there that I see every day, and I work out every day. I always say my fitness is my biggest passion, and I work out every day unless I can't. So that's something I really miss. So I've had to convert to Zoom call workouts, hikes. I take a 6-mile hike every night up in the mountains. I live in Orange County at the Saddleback Mountain Range, and I'm so fortunate to have this beautiful area that's not closed because it's a private area, and there's horses in the area when I'm walking by, and hopefully I don't step in anything, but if I do, you just clean it off, build the bridge.
Exactly.
Sorry about that. I shouldn't have.
Hey, we all step in it once in a while, right?
In more ways than one, right?
Yeah. So it's about making do, right? Finding a way to compensate for what is not in front of you or available to you. And, for me, I love my gym time too, but thankfully they haven't closed the swimming pool. So I'm able to go swim every day, and that's what's getting me through. God forbid they start telling us that it transmits by water, and then I'm doomed. So.
Oh my, yeah, you're right. You're right about that. Yeah, it's just it's wild because even when I'm hiking, you see people when you're going up to, you normally would walk by them and pet their dog if they're walking a dog. Now you're like, okay, 6 feet around, you're doing like these little loop-de-loops, along the way. It's so funny. Right. It is so funny, but you enjoy it. Like I'm meeting people I've never met before in my own neighborhood because people are taking more walks, and they are taking advantage of the time that they have right now, So it's what it is,
Well, and one of the things that I hope that we will embrace and use in the life after is the kindness of people. Every time I'm out of my own four walls, I'm thinking, I'm so grateful for the grocery store people and anyone I see out the street, and just every time I get to interact with a third party, I'm so happy to be with them. And, right. That's something we should be memorizing and taking with us into 2.0, right? Post-corona world.
Yeah, I agree with you 100%. I'm a big fan of Walt Disney. I think everybody is, right? And he was always a man with a great vision, great insight. And, he looked for solutions rather than stuff that was easy. He once said, we may not be able to get them to directly care about Snow White, but I know we can get them to care about the dwarfs. We will make the dwarfs care about Snow White. And when they cry for Snow White, they actually will cry.
Oh my God, I do. Oh my God, I love that.
I mean, it's like I remember when Epcot opened and Walt Disney had already passed away, and a reporter asked somebody from Disney, it's a shame he wasn't here, Walt Disney, to see his Epcot open. He goes, he saw it before we did. That's the kind of vision we need to go ahead and embrace today, right?
Yeah.
We need to start thinking about the visions of what's ahead of us rather than what's already happened to us, and like blaming and using excuses. I use this with my people that work with me. Excuses interest the competition. Like, let's not make them. Let's try to build bridges, get over them, and we're going to do it together because we're better together,
Absolutely. And, Walt Disney's core purpose, his whole reason for being was to make people happy, and how who could have better left a legacy, right? It wasn't about merchandising or amusement parks or movies or characters. It was about just making people happy. And everything came from that, just that living that commitment.
Yeah.
And I imagine, go ahead.
I mean, yeah, he was able to examine like every variable. He saw every possibility, and he didn't let anyone alter his focus, his concentration, or Walt Disney's desired outcome. He didn't let people interfere. Because when you have a passion and you have a goal, like I tell my entrepreneurs, stick with it. I mean, I know I saw one of my entrepreneurs that I mentor was presenting, and somebody came up to him that I knew. You actually know him too, and he told him, I don't like it. It's not a good deal. And I stepped him aside later, and I said, yeah, that's all right. You're going to have a lot of naysayers. That's what's great about an entrepreneur. You can't let the naysayers actually interfere with your passion and your visioned outcome. Can't let it happen. Can't.
Amen. I can't tell you, when I was planning to go to law school way back 100 years ago, and I can't tell you how many people told me there were too many lawyers. Back then I was in California, and they said too many lawyers. And I thought, I was so driven and so determined, and it was, first one in my family to have a professional degree like that. There was no one who was going to stop me. And the only thing I could say to them then was, well, there's not too many great lawyers. And I don't know where that came from, but it was my response to the naysayers then. And, what is it that we can say to people to, keep, what do we have to say to ourselves first, right? To get that, to not get in, to not come in. And what beats us out of it? What beats it out of us as we get older?
Yeah, I mean, I just think in this time, all this free time we need to grow our vision. We need to find different solutions to problems which we do have, even though I'm good news only. We shouldn't settle for speedy and quick answers. We should work hard to explore new roads, new methods. And most of all, don't be afraid of trying. I always tell the kids I mentor, instead of complaining about being bored or performing the same routine each day, spend an hour working on a new way to solve an old problem. That's the way you do it. You can't do it by, again, I always, Winnie the Pooh there's a business book, and I got to find it for you. The Winnie the Pooh, there's that character. Every one of those characters represents somebody in the culture of business in a large corporation. And I just know that every time I want to be Tigger, and I will refuse ever to be Eeyore, ever, because he's just not going to have a good day.
No, right? So speaking of not having a good day, you come from a lot of retail experience. You've had some great successes, and there are people out there who might be wondering, how am I going to reopen my doors, knowing that they either have their supply chains cut off, or their customer base has disappeared, or they haven't been able to pay their overhead, they've lost all their employees. What are we going to be able to tell these people, whether it's retail or food service, other industries that are looking at a black hole right now with not clear about an end in sight?
Yeah, it's going to have to be a reboot. I mean, in my personal situation, you design for 2020, actually in 2019. So you take your orders for 2020 in 2019, right? So in retail is run by a 6-month calendar of grading. So people grade you at the end of 6 months. So basically what's going to happen, I think the best advice I should give is the government's been really good at helping, number one, and take advantage of that, because this isn't something that you caused or anybody caused. It's a situation like a hurricane. So 2020